Okay, nerds, I'm running late, so we're going to dive on into this. I am Taylor. It is June 29th, 2022. This is my weekly comic book review show. Worst to best, as always, there are no rules. And yeah, I'm going to say probably these books could all be interchanged as far as my ranking goes, the bunch. Got about this many to go through. There was nothing really awful this week, which is good. I'm not going to be as cranky as normal, even though this is the cranky comic book review show. These are actually some pretty decent comics this week, mostly. I mean, I'll get into it. There's going to be nitpicky. There's going to be minor-y stuff that I probably didn't dig. Whatever. It's the nature of life and all that. Hakuna Matata. I've never seen The Lion King. Anyways, we're going to start with this one. I'm calling it the worst just because not a ton happened in it. It's the variants #1. It's written Jessica Jones mystery, as it were. It's written by Gail Simone and art by Phil Noto. The Phil Noto art is solid. It's not dynamic or very exciting. It's serviceable. It's Phil Noto. It's kind of, if you've ever seen a lot of what he does, this is kind of it. It's not crazy over the top comic booky. But it's also not bad. You can follow along. You can understand it. You're not really ever confused as far as that goes. Gail Simone's a solid writer. There were a few panels in here, a few pages where I was like, what? But some of that is just I'm not crazy familiar with all of Jessica Jones's history. I know the basics. And basically what this issue does is kind of just gets you up to speed on that without being overly expositionally. I did like that. It wasn't just a giant exposition dump, but it was all set up. This cover has more going on for it than the actual book, as far as what happens, to advance the mystery part of it all. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying about this. It's not bad. It's just setup, and that's kind of why it is what it is. It's just it feels like there should have been a little bit more progressing in this issue, or it kind of just wasn't overly exciting. So. Next, this one I wasn't even planning on really getting. My new local LCS just like, hey, you're getting Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals, right? Or whatever it's called. I'm like, yeah. Well, I threw the Avengers in there for you so you can get caught up. I'm like, okay, fine. So, Avengers, number 57. It's a weird one for a jumping on point, but it is Jason Aaron. Art by, I don't know, Karan? Whatever. I think this is a one-off. I've not been reading the Avengers. I'm not caught up on it. I don't really know what the hell's going on. I've been reading Avengers forever, though, and this feels like it could be an issue of that. It's set in the 40s during World War II. And then, yeah, there's a soldier supreme that has to fight some stuff. It's not bad. It seems like a one-and-done kind of take on this character I've never heard of before. It might be a first appearance. I don't know. I've not been playing around in the main Avengers world or reading it, so it could be something that Jason Aaron's been doing. But it was solid. It was an enjoyable enough issue, even though I was like, what the hell is going on for the first half of it? But once you got going on it, it was interesting enough. Not groundbreaking, not going to change the world, but for a mainstream Marvel title, I've read a lot worse, and I've read a lot worse lately. So Avengers 57, solid. All right, next, Iron Cat #1. I didn't think I was going to like this book at all because it's Iron Cat #1. This is Jen McKay writing with Perez on the art and Diarmada on the lettering, coloring, whatever. It doesn't matter. I got this because I was like, well, I should spec on it. It's a first appearance. It might not be. I got a feeling it's probably not, but it could be. Really not sure. I'm not caught up on Black Cat's history, and Black Cat's history is what you kind of need to know to know whether or not this is actually a first appearance, so I can just trust Key Collector, which is usually garbage. They'll eventually get it right. They always do, but whatever. As far as the story itself goes, it's a Black Cat story, and it's not bad. It's pretty predictable, and it tells two concurrent. It tells a flashback and it tells a main timeline story. They flash back and forth throughout the issue. It's not bad. It's not fantastic. It's not going to change the world. It's a little predictable, and it's it kind of reminds me of the Avengers. For what it is, it's fine. It's not horrible. If you like Selena Kyle, if you like Black Cat, whatever, is her name Selena Kyle or is that Catwoman? I can't remember. There's so many cat goddamn things. They're all pretty much alike. This person. the cat thief. Whatever the hell her name is. If you like her, you're probably gonna like this book. So it's decent. Robin next. Robin number 15. This is a transitional issue. Not a whole lot really happens. It does some setup, and then it's kind of a setup issue. That's kind of why it's low on the list. It's solid. Again, I like Robin. I like Josh Williams' take on the character. I've had fun with this up to now. It's 15 issues in. It's still a fun read. Cruz on the artwork is solid too. Is kind of cartoony, but in a decent way. Not overly so. But still has a mastery of anatomy. Decent enough storyteller as far as the art goes. It's just not a whole lot happens in here. It's a setup issue, and it sets things up. So you're set up, and it's probably going to lead right into the next arc. Now, these monthly books do need this sometimes. They need like these down beats, because otherwise it's just like go, 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 and you're just getting exhausted. And without these like kind of interludes, you're really just going to be kind of like a really tired reading. I've read worse interludes than this. It is fine. It's a fine interlude issue. All right, next. We have Department of Truth. What issue is this? 19. Holy crap. I don't know what this book. It's gorgeous. Simmons on the art is like kind of like a more scribbly, less coherent version of Bill Sienkiewicz. I'm probably not the only one to make that comparison. It's Tynion's writing. It is slow as balls. It's a Tynion book. That's what Tiny Onion, whatever the hell. It's a slow book. And it's like peeling back the onions and the layers and the switching sides. If you're familiar with the Department of Truth thing, it's like people's beliefs can make things true. And there's various factions now that we've learned about that are fighting for this. On one side, there's Lee Harvey Oswald in the Department of Truth, and then there's the Black Hats, which somebody made a switch and whatever, and then there's also the Russians. There's a lot of factions that go down here trying to decide what's true or control the truth. That's what we've gotten in 19 issues. I just kind of summed it up in a couple sentences. You learn some stuff in here. It's a moon landing issue, kind of, not really. It's also it does move the actual plot with Cole, who's the main character or the viewpoint into this world, forward a bit, which is good. We needed some of that. But again, it is Tynion. It is not a fast book. Everything I've read of his has just been kind of glacially paced, and this is glacially paced. It would be probably lower on the list if it weren't for the art. I really dig the art, and yeah, I really tempted just to start reading these in trade because it's just one of those books that like I don't think monthly does it justice, and you can just probably pick it up for each arc and be fine. So that is what it is. It's not bad. Department of Truth, 19. All right. Are we going to do this? Hang on, I'm trying to figure out order here, people. I'm doing this on the fly. Yeah, I'll go next with this. 8 Billion Genies, number 2. This is a weird book. It's Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. The art is not bad. It's a little sketchy. The characters are a little bit cartoony in the facially speaking for my liking. But you're never confused. You're never lost. It's serviceable. I know I've said that, but that's kind of the truth of this book as well. And Charles Soule writing, and the premise is like, what if every person on Earth got one wish, or a genie that would grant them one wish. This is where you learn the kind of rules of it all. And that's what this issue basically is. It doesn't really progress a plot. There hasn't really been much of a plot thus far. What it does do is say, okay, this is what happens with the genies. And so you're learning more about that. And it's interesting enough. It's just it hasn't really progressed stuff. It's higher on the list than some of these others because I think it is a whack-ass idea. And I think it is in a good way. I think it's like, oh, that's just a craziness. I do wish it was actually a little bit crazier. And that's kind of where I think it's falling a little short. There's some craziness that they say happens, but they don't really show it overly. And I would like to see some of the just batshit craziness that would happen if this were a real thing. And that's kind of it. It's not bad at all. Again, nothing this month has been, or this week has been really, truly horrible. So, how are we doing on these? Yeah, all right. Hang on. Yeah, okay, we're good. Next, what's the furthest place from here? Number 7. And I apologize. These reviews are probably a little bit shorter than normal this week because I've been reading them later. I didn't start reading until like 3 in the afternoon, and so I'm just kind of like trying to get caught up and get this video made and get it out to you. So if you want more in-depth stuff, let me know in the comments, and I'll try and get a little bit longer next time around. It's also a fairly, I mean, it's a mid-heavy week for me. Nothing crazy. So I don't know. I'm not feeling super verbose right now. The world is a mess. America's regressed 50 some fucking years, and so like me trying to concentrate on comics seems like a little bit disingenuous sometimes when there's just so much crap going on in the world, and it's just kind of gotten to me this week. So I'm getting there. Gonna dive back into the world. What's the furthest place from here? This starts a new arc, but it also is maybe a one and done. In as far as it's all, it sort of explains what's happened in the past, kinda. You're still not really sure what the hell's going on. And this book is a mystery book. It's been a very slowly paced up until now. The first 6 issues are just almost tiny and slow. Not quite, but almost. It's a the illustrations are pretty well drawn. They're sparse. They're not overly detailed. But again, you're not. And I keep saying again, but I need to work on it. It's a bad verbal tick. You're never confused as far as what's going on visually. It's just the plot, as it were. It's like the writers are not giving you a whole lot to work with as far as peeling back the layers of the mystery onion. So this peels back a bit, and you learn that there are these things that have set this whole world into place where the grown-ups are not really a thing, and you kind of start to learn a little bit of what's behind them, but not much. It's I hope they explore this more. I do appreciate that, like, it is a mystery, and you're just kind of like, what in the hell? But I wish there was maybe just a few more clues for the reader, and a few more like, okay, what, huh? And yeah, so it's good. It's slow. Read it and trade. You'll probably be better off. All right, next we have Seven Secrets number 18. This is the last issue of Seven Secrets. And what do I think of this ending? I'm glad in a lot of ways it ended the way it did. I think if it ended in like I don't want to spoil how it ended, so I'm going to try and dance around the ending and say my thoughts on the series as a whole a bit. The series as a whole is a pretty fast-paced action romp. It dipped a bit in the middle, and it kind of like picked back up towards the end. I think that's kind of natural when you're talking about something that's 18 issues long or around that length. You're going to have like lulls. It had a lull that almost lost me, but it did pick back up, and it was just a pretty solid, fun, very fast-paced ride. And part of that fast-pacedness just comes to like a screeching halt here. Again, it ends, and it does have a definitive ending, and it's a satisfying ending mostly. My problem with how it ends is I think that it needed more setup for the actual ending. Like the way it ends really relies on a character acting a certain way. And you're supposed to believe that this character acts this way because that's the nature of their character, right? The problem is there's not been a lot of setup as far as the actual nature of this character, and like because it was such a fast-paced ride for these 18 issues. When it comes to like, oh well, that's how this character would behave, and that makes perfect sense. You don't get that. You get like, oh, okay, I guess we're just supposed to be told that that's how this character is, and that's why it's ending the way it is. And so that dips it down a little bit for me. Again, I don't think it's... See, there's me saying again. I'm working on it. I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's phenomenal, but I do think it's at least a solid, decent ending, and it wraps it up. There's probably a potential for it to pick back up again. But it does conclude the story, and that's not always the case in some of these. So I'm happy that it was a conclusion. I'm happy that it actually ended the way it did. I just think that the setup for this ending could have been dealt with better. So there you go. Yeah, next we have A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance number... What is this? 9. This is a setup issue. And I know there's been a few of these in this story. This is a very quiet issue for this book, even by this book standards. There's not been a lot of dialogue in this at all. Rick Remender and Andre Lima Arahu are telling a mostly visual story. Like, you could probably take all of 9 issues of dialogue, all the writing, all the actual talking, and it would fill up about half of this, which I'll talk about next. This one issue, but yeah, like it's just not. It's a sparsely written book from that perspective, but it's gorgeous, and like this book is just a quiet moment, And I appreciated it, honestly. I don't think it's going to be for everybody. I think a lot of people might bang on this issue because it doesn't have a lot of action, and I can get that. But I think it was a nice respite from what's been going on. So that said, it's not going to be for everyone. This book probably has lost some folks by now. Anyways, but I'm still down for it. A lot of it has to do with Araujo's art. Araujo's art, it's just gorgeous. It's just this, honestly, it's a gorgeous book. All right, speaking of gorgeous books, next we have Mindset #1 from Vault Comics. I think this is the ratio variant. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. Is Zach Kaplan on the writing? And Pearson on the Paul Pearson, I think maybe on the art. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It's a gorgeous book, and it's an interesting premise, and that's why it's where it is on this list. John Pearson, I was way off. John Paul, one of the Beatles. It's digitally painted, I think, but full color painting, mostly easy to explain to see what's going on as far as that goes. I think John Pearson's a solid visual storyteller. There are some pages here that are absolutely gorgeous. It's a setup issue. That maybe is the theme of this week. Lots of setup issues. And it's pretty verbose. There's a lot of internal monologuing here and exposition dumped through that. It's I mean, it's an interesting enough premise that it's high enough on this list. I don't want to give away what the premise is because the book gives it away, but it's one of those last page reveals. And so that's what this issue is. It's the setup of the last page, all leading to the last page. You're like, oh, that's what's going on. And it starts with like things started here, and then oh nope, and then we're backing up and telling the story. So it's that kind of storytelling device where you're like looking at things through the recent past as far as like how did we get to here. It's a trope. It's a well-worn device, but it's handled pretty well. It's just it's a little heavy on the dialogue, and a lot of it is sciencey-wincy stuff that's not overly necessary to the story. It's Kaplan. Kaplan tends to do that. He tends to be a very verbose writer, and it's not bad. If you're down for like science fiction goodness with gorgeous art, but you're willing to be patient and not expect everything to be really laid out for you in this issue, I think Mindset #1's a pretty solid start. Okay, next we have, and these three, I was debating about how, these are the last three I'm reviewing. I was debating about the order of these three too, so just know it's been one of those weeks where I'm not finding it super easy to like rank everything, but I'm doing it anyways, people, because that's what I do. I set up this stupid device when I started doing these weekly videos, so now I'm stuck with it. So we have Swamp Thing #14, Ron V, Sean Perkins, with Spicer on the coloring. Ron V understands the gothic horror nature of Swamp Thing. Even though this is a different Swamp Thing than Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and stuff, it just feels right. And everything about this book just feels like correct and creepy and atmospheric. And it's Levi Kamei as the new Swamp Thing. It's almost the end of the run. I think it's got 2 more issues and then it's wrapping up. And it's given, it was supposed to be 10 issues originally, and now it's 16. It's given Ron V a little bit more time to like stretch out the story, which I think in this case was a good idea. And Perkins on the art is just gorgeous and gothic and creepy with tones of like the older artists on here, but he's doing his own thing. Green Lantern's in here, which is kind of like, oh, where did that come from? I don't really remember that from the last issue, but yes, that's where here we are. We got Green Lantern. And that's the only thing that I think maybe this title didn't need. I kind of wish it was not set in like straight DC continuity, because I don't think that it was necessary. Like the tie-ins that have been part of this series, like the Suicide Squad and the Green Lantern, have been strictly necessary for the story, but it's handled well. And it is a great take on on the Swamp Thing mythos and a new character, and introducing a lot of new things to the mythos that I think are great, like the Parliament of Gears and the nature of like technology and humanity and like that intersection and what humanity is brought to the table and whether or not humanity is worth saving, which has always kind of been a Swamp Thing thing. But I think there's some new interesting spins on it. I think this is a solid issue. I'm looking forward to seeing how the series wraps up in the next 2 issues. And Swamp Thing's been great from the get-go. So there we go. All right, next we have Agent of w.o.r.l.d.e, W.o.r.l.d.e, whatever the hell. Whatever the hell, honestly. Scout Comics, this is Camp and Bratukin, w.o.r.l.d.e, and I don't know. Pick a better typeface so I can read your goddamn names on the cover, people. It's another gorgeous book. Gorgeous. And really intricate. Reminds me of Jeff Darrow, with like Frank Quitely and some other, I can't think of some of the other artists, but it's like written by Dennis Camp, art by Ophelia Bratukin, color and design by Jason w.o.r.l.d.e, lettered. Okay, anyways. It's a densely drawn book. Just intricate detail, all with very similar line weight that relies heavily on the colorist to like kind of pull things fun. I mean, it's a flat world if you don't have the color. It's like a Morbius, whatever the hell the guy's name was, that kind of thing. I mean, it's just the art alone is redonkulously good in here, and just kind of enough to push it to where it is. The story itself, it's okay. It's a interesting enough story that really relies on a whole lot of word babble to get anywhere, and like just general craziness versus an actual good story. So you're getting like an interesting setup that's just kind of wacky and out there, and like interesting characters that are just kind of wacky and out there, and a situation that's kind of wacky and out there. And that combined with his art makes it a fun read. It's not a whole lot else other than that. I know other people really like this book, and I do enjoy it. It's just not quite my book of the week because of those reasons. If it was a little more grounded and a little less reliant on like made up acronyms and like wackiness, just a hair, and like a little bit more straightforward on plot that wasn't reliant on those wacky ass stuff, it might have made the book of the week. Again, it is solid. I'm going to pick up the second issue. It looks like a Herculean effort art wise, and the writing is good. It's just it does not give the reader the easiest way in because of all this kind of techno-y, Bible-y nonsense. So, all right, last and my favorite book this week is Chip Zdarsky's Public Domain. This is a quieter book than I thought it would be, and it's Zdarsky doing the art and the illustration, which I don't know how the hell he finds time to do all that, because he's now writing Batman and all this other shit too, and like Stillwater and stuff. But I get writing takes less time than the art, but this is a solidly drawn issue too. I thought this would be more about like I didn't really read the solicits or any of the previews in this, so I was like, oh, it's going to be about a superhero named Public Domain. Kind of. It's more about creating comics and what happens to the creators behind the comics when they become popular. So it's kind of a bit of an essay on Marvel in some ways. It's not directly referencing Marvel comics, but it is also it's talking about Marvel and some DC stuff. But it's basically how a family is learning to deal with what happens when one of the artist's creations becomes famous and the artist is not necessarily getting recognition for that. There's some poignant moments in here. It's a solid start, and I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. I'm looking forward to seeing what Chip has to say on the subject. And yeah, it was my favorite book this week. It was a close call. I mean, all the top three were all pretty decent, and this one was like next tier. And the next tier down was also pretty good. But Public Domain just kind of grabbed me. It was the first book I read this week. It was one I was kind of most excited to dive into, and it held up. Not that I was battling for the rankings in my head or anything, but kind of. I try and figure out where, as I'm reading each week, where things are going to land. And I'm like, well, let's start. That's pretty solid to see like if anything, beats it out. And nothing really beat it out. It's not very dynamic, and it's not a superhero tale per se, but it had enough going for it in this issue. It had like a couple characters I really kind of felt like, yeah, this could be something pretty strong, and so I dug it. It's my favorite book this week. Again, I'm not crazy cranky, but it was not a bad week for comics. Like there was some strong stuff. So we got Public Domain, Right's Thirst for Vengeance, Mindset, Swamp Thing, Agents of the World. Those are all great. I mean, these are all probably could vie for number one, and other people probably do have the number one on their list. And then the next tier down, we have Seven Secrets, number 18. What's first place from here? 8 Billion Genies. And Department of Truth, although Department of Truth maybe should be pushed down to the next tier. But yeah, these are the mid-tier books. And then the ones that kind of are the lower tier this week were still decent as far as like lower tier books. They all just happen to be from the mainstream titles, but as far as mainstream books go, these are better than a lot of the crap that Marvel and DC puts out. So there you have it, folks. That's what I thought. Those are the books I read this week. Now, let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me, if I missed anything, all that kind of stuff. Please hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. You can hit the notification bell so you know when I drop vids, although I do try and keep a very regular schedule for that. For you, my loving, adoring 4 people that watch this. If you want to support the channel, I have merchandise you can buy at taylorwinter.com. I think it's pretty clever stuff. I like it. Not to toot my own horn, but I try and put out a quality product there. It's not for everybody, but life's not for everybody. Wait, that's morbid. Whatever. All right, I'll see you next week. In the meantime, don't be a dick, even if you're not feeling super cranky and the world's going to shit. And America just got their clock and women's rights set back by 60 years, and it's all hell. Actually, you know what? You could be a dick this week. Go ahead. Especially if you're a woman, you can be a dick. If you're a guy, we probably shouldn't be dicks. See ya.